Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be talking about the propaganda war in the Gaza Genocide and who is winning it. Is it the Zionist or the anti-Zionist coalition? And we're going to start off with this tweet by Sprinter saying, in cyberspace, support for Palestine is rising while support for the Israeli regime is declining according to The Economist research. But the most shocking thing is the superiority of the number of neutral people. Okay, so let's see. Superiority of the number of neutral people. All right, so what is this trying to say here? Okay, so the first graph, well, just to start off with my original thoughts is, initially, people came out very pro-Israel without getting all the facts. It turns out that literally everything that I've heard Israel say about what happened on October 7th has been a lie in one way, shape, or form. Literally everything from the supposed heinous atrocities that were all debunked to the reasons for the attack to how the attack was allowed to happen. Literally everything I could think of, they just lied. They completely lied. It wasn't even good lies. And people on social media are trying to figure out, they're scratching their head, why are they such poor liars when they have complete control of the media and entertainment apparatus? And the reason they are such bad liars is because of the fact that they've never had to work at it. Whenever you have complete control of the media and entertainment apparatus, there is no room for other thoughts. Every thought that is allowed in the mainstream are thoughts that you have allowed in the mainstream. And so for them, they've not actually had to refine their propaganda techniques in order to actually persuade people. And so now that you have social media like Twitter that is allowing people to say things that are contrary to the Zionist narrative, their narrative falls apart because they're not used to having to actually debate ideas. They're used to controlling the space so other people get censored and can't critique what they're saying. And so that's why they're losing over time. It is unfortunate that so many people believe them to begin with. I was very staunchly for Palestine before this conflict even arose. I've had Free Palestine in my Twitter description forever. I've been talking about advocating for Palestine for the longest time. And so it's good to see other people get on board with that, but it's also very disappointing how quickly people took a very pro-United States narrative when the United States has lied about everything. They've lied about Libya, they've lied about Syria, they've lied about Iraq, they've lied about Afghanistan, everything. Vietnam, they lied about Yugoslavia. I mean, they've literally lied about every single war they've been a part of and the reasons for their actual participation in those wars. And so just ridiculous stuff. But let's look at how things are going here. Okay, so social media posts in October 2023, percent of the sample that are neutral. Okay, so I'm assuming neutral means something like asking for a ceasefire, maybe, not taking a definitive stand on the side of Palestine or Israel. I'm assuming neutral doesn't mean like they're just like posting about their favorite K-pop band. It has to be something related to the conflict, but not taking a definitive stance either way. And they have different ways of doing this. They probably have done some type of content analysis, looking for positive and negative words related to Israel and Palestine. But we see that it started off essentially even on October 7th, which is curious because Palestine didn't have a chance to refute any of the narratives immediately. But I think enough people are a part of the anti-Zionist coalition that they knew that no matter what happened, the Israelis, the Zionists, were going to lie about it. And so they trusted the Palestinians. I was one of those people. I did not believe a single thing that Israel was saying, and it turned out I was completely correct to not believe a single thing that Israel was saying. I don't get it. Like, there has to be people, I'm going to spend the entire, I had other Twitter posts that I was going to go over, but I'm going to spend the entire time on this one post, I think. So I don't understand how people consistently believe the wrong narrative, or how they can believe the wrong narrative in one case, but then believe the right narrative in another case. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I know professors who, they were very hostile to the anti-white narrative or the anti-male narrative or the anti-Christian narrative or the anti-straight narrative. They were very hostile towards some of them or all of them. And then they became completely woke on the topic of COVID vaccines, which I'm not allowed to talk about too much because this is going to be posted on YouTube. So we'll just say that COVID vaccines are very safe and effective, despite the fact that a lot of young people are dying of heart attacks nowadays. And it seems like there's a high rate of people reporting serious side effects, which we're not allowed to get into, but there are various reports to that effect that in other circumstances would have got the vaccines pulled, and in this circumstance did not. But anyways, it's just weird to me how people can be susceptible to this propaganda, because I hate to brag here, I've been right every single time so far. Like, and that's what you have to do, is you have to, everyone has a certain worldview, they have a certain paradigm, they have a certain lens with which they view the world. And the way to figure out if your lens is correct, your algorithm for predicting the future, because humans are prediction machines, is to input data and see if you get the correct output, if you get the correct predictions. And so in this instance, and in every other instance, I've entered the data to figure out what is the correct answer in various situations. And it turns out I've been right in the end, in every single circumstance, okay? It's confusing to me that some people can be right about certain things, like the racist narrative that is being propagated throughout academia, but then not be able to understand when media, entertainment, the government is lying to you when it comes to things like vaccines and the pandemic. And so it's been really weird to see that there's this susceptibility. But I think overall, because of the fact that me and people like me have been right so frequently, I think other people are starting to take notice that the authorities in nearly all cases are just not telling the truth. In a lot of cases, they're just flat out lying, like they're giving you the complete opposite of the truth. But I won't get too far into that. I'm just confused about why people believe Israel to begin with. I mean, it's Zionist propaganda that controls the Western narrative, and there's no reason that they would be truthful in this case when they've never been truthful in the past. So it just really befuddling to me to see that it was actually even to begin with, because they were just wrong. They lied so often about so many things. And we'll talk about that in other videos. The 40 beheaded babies thing, that a pretend nurse come out who was actually an Israeli actress talking about how Hamas was taking supplies from the hospitals and they were working out of the hospitals. And it was very obvious that she was the same actress, that her pictures were everywhere online. It was just ridiculous narratives. But for some reason, people are still susceptible to this. And I think the reason is because people assume that the government and media and entertainment aren't lying. They just assume they're wrong sometimes. And in which case, if they're only wrong sometimes, you can expect them to be right in other circumstances. Like they're not always going to be wrong. But if they are lying to you, there is no reason to believe that they're not going to lie to you in every other circumstance as well, especially if you give them that power where you allow yourself to be persuaded in other circumstances when it would be to their benefit to lie to you, which it's always in their benefit in modern times. But anyways, we'll move on from here. What we could see here is that the Palestinian narrative is succeeding because there is the free exchange of ideas, or at least the more free exchange of ideas than there was a few years ago. And so the lies are allowed to be debunked. The Zionist narrative is allowed to be critiqued. And so we are winning the hearts and minds. I've seen people talk about this. Samira Khan on Twitter says, like, the American public's never going to wake up. No, I've had conversations recently, and I've been able to persuade people recently about the Zionist narrative. And so I do think that people are waking up to what is going on at a far higher rate than what you could expect in the past. And so this is something that we should be proud of. We are winning the narrative war after so many years of losing so hard. But anyways, let's move on. What's happening on different platforms? We could see that neutrality is winning on YouTube, and that is exactly what I would expect because of the fact that you're not allowed to say things that are pro-Israel on, or you're not allowed to say things that are pro-Palestine on Israel, because you're not allowed to say things that are pro-Palestine on YouTube because YouTube is Zionist controlled, is what I'm trying to say if words worked for me. And because YouTube is Zionist controlled, they're not allowing any posts that are against their narrative. Okay, so I would have expected the other to be far more slanted towards Palestine, because the Zionists took control of all the main forms of propaganda. And so I expected the less popular ones to be more the bastions of free speech that would be pro-Palestine. But we're not seeing that here. We're seeing Twitter, obviously. Elon Musk has come out pretty strongly against the Zionists, which very much concerns me about his future life expectancy, because the Zionists are not known to be forgiving about these types of things. Instagram, very pro-Palestine. Great to see that. I don't use Instagram. I should get into it. But anyways, that's everything. We are winning the media narrative. You can see that. And you can see that whenever there's more freedom of speech, whenever people are allowed to say what they want to say, they are more pro-Palestine, more anti-Zionist coalition. And so we win in the marketplace of ideas. We win in debates. We are the winners. There's a Mohammed Hijab debate with a rabbi on Piers Morgan's channel, which I'm going to be watching. I might provide some commentary on it as well. But we have been winning every debate that I've seen. Norman Finkelstein, his debating is top notch. He's won every single debate. We see Candace Owens defeating her somewhat boss, Ben Shapiro. Just across the board, anti-Zionist coalition. We could call it pro-Palestinian, but really this is a larger conflict that's going on. But we're winning across the board. So high five to us. And let's keep it up. So yeah, I just spent 12 minutes on one Twitter post, but I got on a few different tangents related to just the wider picture, putting this in context of how the government narrative, how the Zionist narrative is just lying to us across the board. So if you found this video to be helpful, to be informative, please leave us a like. It does help us in the algorithm. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and Rumble. We are going to eventually mostly pivot to Rumble probably, because we expect to be banned on YouTube. And just because of how we are anti-Zionist and YouTube is controlled by Zionists. And please leave us a comment in the comment box below. Questions, concerns, critiques. I do read all of them. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.